creating wealth, freedom, and security using real estate investing. This is Get Real Wealthy.
All right, this is part 2 of the series for young adults. Today we're going to be talking about building your credit. Yes, building your credit and why it's important. So, a lot of the things that we're going to be doing while investing require some sort of credit in order for you to continue to grow it. You can start without credit, but in order to continue to get to any sort of scale, you're going to need to have good credit. And so credit is really something that is in the background. You might not think about it, but it's something that allows banks or other institutions to track how well you repay funds that you borrow. Okay, and that's something that happens on could be on a daily basis, could be on a monthly basis, depending on how active you are with credit. Now, something has changed, and we've moved from what I would call a money-based system to a credit-based economy. So often in the past, we might have thought that, we earn money, we spend the money that we have, and, that's really it. But in the economy that we have today, oftentimes we're spending much more than what we have. Okay, we'll have credit cards, we'll have mortgages, we'll have loans for cars or vehicles, and that means we're spending much more than the money we have. What we have is credit. And if we are good with our credit, we are going to be able to borrow more. And if we can borrow the right type of debt, we're going to be able to create wealth from that. If we borrow the wrong type of debt, then we're going to have to pay for that for years and years and years. And I don't want that to be you. I want you to have the right type of debt. So let's talk a little bit about how to be able to build credit. Well, first of all, when my son, before he turned 18, I looked at co-signing with him for a credit card. So that means that it was going to be under my name, but he was going to have the credit card. Now, the challenge with that I found is that he's not actually building credit. I'm giving him access to a credit card, but he's not actually building credit with a credit history. So that wasn't useful, and it wasn't something that we pursued. But as soon as he turned 18, we applied for a credit card. Actually, he did the research. He looked at different places and different financial institutions and what kind of cards they had. And he chose a card that gave him points to go to the movies and things like that. And so he got that type of a credit card. That credit card was in his own name. Now, when I applied for credit cards way back in, when I went to post-secondary, I'd come out of the library and there'd be a couple of people pitching me a $500 credit card and giving me a free hat or a free something or other. And at the time I was like, a free hat? Sure, I'll take it. And the only unfortunate thing was that I didn't use the credit card effectively. I would put stuff on the credit card, not pay it back, and all of a sudden I would get a bill 3-4 months later saying, hey, you owe us some additional interest. But, thinking, okay, well, I spent $200, all I'd have to come up with is $200, and it ended up being a lot more than that. So I don't want anybody else to be into that situation. So for you, what I suggest is that you borrow what you plan to pay back. So whatever you put on your credit card, you're going to pay it back that same month if you can, or within 2 months. It's okay to carry a bit of a balance because you want to show that you're able to pay it back. If you do that, you start to build credit over time. Okay? The more that you can borrow, the more that you pay back, the better your credit history is. Credit cards start that off. A car loan would also start that off. As if you had a car loan and you paid back that car loan over time, you start to build that credit history. Mortgages help to do that as well. They all help to build your credit history. But you're starting off, you may start off with a I think my son was able to get like a $1,500 credit card, which I thought was a lot, but he's being responsible and paying it off every month. There are also services that you can use that you can look at what your credit is looking like right now. Now, if you're just starting off like him, you probably don't have a credit history. But if you use services like Borrowwell or Credit Karma, it allows you to take a look at your credit. Now, you may be afraid that if you're using those services that it's going to hit your credit and it's going to reduce your credit because someone may have told you that. And while those type of soft hits can affect your credit over time, the type of thing that you're doing right now using Credit Karma and Borrowwell or other services like that aren't going to hit you very much unless you're planning to do some borrowing at the time. It's not really something that you have to worry about, and those are really soft hits, okay? One of the things that I was able to do is contact a mortgage agent, broker friend, and say, hey, listen, can you pull his credit and let us see what he actually has? Now, they need to take permission to pull credit. He signed a form to be able to do that. And, he just doesn't have enough history to show credit yet. It's going to take him some time to do that. Another tip that I would have, especially if you're a young person or you're having trouble with credit, is get paper statements, especially at the beginning for tracking. So you want to be able to see, these are what I spent in the month, this is what I paid off. And you can go through it and you can cross it off. Okay, we cross off what you paid back and what you borrowed in a month. And that's something that I think, especially the first year or two when you're using credit, you want to make sure that you're utilizing it appropriately. And there may be things that come up that you don't understand. For example, when you're putting gas charges on in your vehicle, what may end up happening is that there's some sort of pending transaction charge, and you see like $100 sitting there, but you also have a charge from the gas company where you filled up your tank of gas for your car. There's a $70 charge for the gas, but a $100 pending charge. Well, until it's paid, that pending charge sits there, and you may wonder, well, do I have to pay the $100? No. Okay, so they're all things that you will learn as you start to use credit. And there are little things that come up, but it helps you. Remember, what you're doing is you're building a history of credit. The better that you can utilize this credit, the easier it is for you to borrow later on. So for example, you're using this for your credit card, and for maybe you work with your parents and they give you a little bit of money to buy a car for the down payment, or you saved up some money and you want to put some money down in a car, but you don't have enough, so you use the credit facility there. They're going to look at your credit card history to see whether that you're going to be able to get that car. And then the same thing happens for a mortgage for a house. So that going backwards, you want to build all of that credit up so that you can go out and borrow. And once you borrow, you want to borrow, and we'll talk about this in a later episode, good debt versus bad debt versus opportunity debt. All right? So that's in a future episode. For now, I want you, if you haven't done so, go out and apply for a credit. Okay, whatever that looks like for you. Start to ask questions about getting some credit. And so that's your next assignment. We'll see you on the next episode of Get Real Wealthy, this young adult series. Have a good one.
Make sure to check out getrealwealthy.com.
Until next time, I'm Quentin D'Souza. Get out there and take action.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for information purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, go to getrealwealthy.com.